I was a child of the 80s, and if there were two major influences in my life, they were movies and the Nintendo Entertainment System. So, when these two giants of media crossed paths, kid me was like, oh heck yeah. But as time would later reveal, this wasn't always the best case scenario. Now that I'm older, I'd like to revisit this fascinating time period when virtually any popular movie could shamelessly be adapted into a video game. Now, most would argue that these games were mostly terrible, but perhaps not all of them. So, I decided to play every NES game based on a movie released in North America and rank them from best to absolute worst. My name is B. Ross, and this is every NES movie-based game ranked from best to worst. Let's go. We're starting this off with the Addams Family, a very famous television and film franchise. This series has had several entries on the NES, with the most famous being Fester's Quest, which, to be honest, I don't care for, and Pugsley's Scavenger Hunt, which I never played. However, this game seems to be the closest adaptation of the 1990s film. And you know what? It's actually not a bad game. It features open world elements, fantastic theming that stays true to its source material, while also boasting a respectable level of difficulty. So we're off to a strong start, and the Addams Family takes the top spot, not only because it's the only game on the rankings list so far, but it's actually good. Now we're jumping into Alien 3, and I gotta say, great graphics. It definitely nails the atmosphere of the movie, but I found the movement to be weirdly off. The control scheme isn't very well dialed in, and the objective is to find the various hostages, I guess, and free them from their tentacle imprisonment. But it just feels awkward. Not only do you have to deal with being constantly bombarded by aliens who will appear a second before you can react, but I was also very turned off by the look aimlessly around the map to rescue your friends while being on a super strict timer gameplay loop. Ugh. Presentation-wise, it's solid. Gameplay-wise, not so much. Also, this game is surprisingly gory for the NES standards. Obviously, it takes second place for now. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Man, what a crazy movie that was. I had no idea until this project that a game even existed. It looks fantastic, with so much charm evident in its character and level design. I mean, the developers really captured the feel of this film. The gameplay is solid as well. I was never confused about my objectives, and I was impressed by the diversity of the stages and the bosses. It's a solid game. It's actually better than Alien 3, but a little less impressive than the Addams Family. Back to the Future is a very dope movie, one of the greatest of the 80s. So when our parents bought us the Nintendo version, we had to believe it was going to be just as dope, right? Right? Well, no. This game is famously hated on for a really good reason. It's just not fun. Graphics are lazy and barely represent the movie. The music is like 4-second loops that sound nearly Atari 2600 level. And ultimately, this is just a crappier version of two other NES games, Paperboy and Root Beer Tapper. Bottom of the list you go. Apparently, the first game sold well enough to warrant not just a sequel, but a sequel with another sequel in the same cartridge. I'm sure this game is going to be vastly better than the first one, right? Well, kind of. They seem to have been heading the right direction with a platformer, but it still suffers the same issues as the first game by barely latching onto the movie's theme. I mean, all of these enemies seem to be from other games, and almost the entire time I was playing this, I didn't know where to go or what I was supposed to be doing. This is barely better than the first, but it's still bottom of the barrel. This is Batman, the video game from Sunsoft, and this is how it's done. A perfect example of how to translate a great film into a great game. With tight and fluid controls, fun and polished action platforming, challenging yet fair gameplay, and graphics and audio that perfectly capture everything Gotham has to offer. This game is right up my alley, and it earns its place at the top of my list. Batman Returns from Konami is a beat-em-up featuring large, detailed sprites, clever use of Batman's tools, a variety of enemies and bosses, and a password system to offset its high difficulty. I find it odd that you start the game with like almost half your health and then immediately get a heart, but whatever. If you're a fan of Batman and beat 'em ups, this is definitely for you. However, I find this genre a bit repetitive, and I tend to lose interest very quickly, especially when they're in 8-bit form. So for me, Batman Returns lands right about here, below Addams Family. Beetlejuice is also another movie-based video game that gets a ton of hate, but I'm not entirely sure it deserves it. Sure, the controls aren't top-notch, but they are serviceable. And I think this game tries its best to replicate a lot of the film's like characters and setting through its different scares that you can buy and use to traverse the level. But this game is full of super cheap deaths. Also, you think you'd have some attack, right? Or at least be able to jump on enemies' heads? But no. You can only stomp these beetles on the ground to buy scares from the dude at the shop, and then you can use these as attacks. I don't know, man. Though it's not even close to being a good game, it's better than both of those Back to the Future games, by far. Bill and Ted's Excellent Video Game Adventure is absolutely atrocious. You start with a phone book where you need to dial the location. And at first I thought this was kind of a rad concept, but then you're thrown into some confusing level select screen where you spin around aimlessly trying to line up your phone booth to enter the time period that you chose. And once you finally manage that, you're immediately tossed into a where do I go and what do I do situation. Can I walk on the grass? No. Oh wait, yes, I can. Well, let me just randomly jump into bushes until I stumble upon an item, which I have no idea whom to give it to. Can I talk to people? Sweet. Oh wait, no, they throw me in jail? And why do I already have a bunch of items and keys in my inventory? This game is a complete mess. I genuinely don't understand why it wasn't designed as a simple level-based platformer. I spent 30 minutes just trying to figure out how to give the first item to the correct character. And the only redeeming factor is that it's marginally better than the first Back to the Future game. Only because the second Back to the Future game attempted to create a platformer that somewhat works with the license. I might give that game another shot, but this game, hard pass. The Blues Brothers, a movie I've heard is awesome, though I've never seen it. And right from the start, this game feels rushed. Literally, look how fast you run. It's way too fast. And what even is this level objective? Unmask a goggled shark, avoid birds, and dodge lethal elevators as you somehow battle your way to the heavens? What the f? The gameplay makes no sense. Everything feels either too floaty or too heavy. The timed elevators are completely unnecessary. And why are there 1940s German soldiers shooting at me underwater? If all this is straight from the movie, then bravo, you did a good job. But honestly, I had a terrible time playing this game. It's going right above Beetlejuice on my list. Oh, we're really building a parade of awfulness here. If you thought the Blues Brothers was a rushed product, then you ain't seen nothing yet, brother. This is Cliffhanger from Sony ImageSoft, and it's one of the ugliest looking, worst sounding, and most poorly controlled disasters of a game I've ever played. At least it follows the movie, maybe a little too closely. You burn money to regain health, okay? Well, it's weird. And also in a game called Cliffhanger, you cannot hang on cliffs. Do yourself a huge favor and avoid this game at all costs. Cliffhanger the movie is kind of fun and dumb though, but in regards to its video game adaptation, it's only slightly better than Back to the Future. Cool World is, from what I hear, a movie very similar to Roger Rabbit, but made for grown-ups. But this game right here, I'm not sure who it's made for. Right out the gate, I get hit by a car and nearly lose all of my health. Then I am savagely attacked by what do I assume is Santa Clauses wearing flasher jackets? And they're just firing shots at me from all directions while I try to figure out how to even attack or switch items. I can't enter any door, and I'm not sure what I can or can't jump on. Apparently, even these marquees hurt me, so I figure maybe I just walk to the end of the level and get some form of a weapon. But no, nothing happens. So I traverse back and finally see a pin hidden up here. I grab it, finally try to attack, I miss, and I can't use it again. Oh wait, I have erasers and bombs? Okay, let's try these. Nope, nothing is working. Wait, something worked. What am I doing here? I am super confused and constantly under fire, and I just can't play another minute of this. Cool World sits kindly right above Bill and Ted. Darkman is a noir stylized action film, and the game at first glance seems to share that charisma. If you select story, you are given a fever dream text screen explaining the story, and then you're back to the main menu. No, okay. Then you start the game and get more story. Right on. Now, finally, here is the game, and it's kind of a mess. Very blocky graphics, all kinds of weird icons at the top, and holy crap, I feel like I'm wearing a weighted jacket when I jump. So I try to traverse and fall to my death. Then I discover some tightrope walking mechanic, and then I fall to my death. Now I try punching Carl from Aqua Teen, and afterwards I fall to my death. Now I get a little further, I gotta make this jump, and Okay, now for reals. I've got this tightrope down, I spam punch Carl's face, and I figured out these platforms. Alright, now I guess we just jump on this bubble to this ledge, and what the heck? I really can't get any further than here. I tried over and over and just no longer really care. Darkman seems mediocre at best. It's better than Cool World and Back to the Future 2, but it's not as good as Beetlejuice. Days of Thunder was that NASCAR movie with a certain famous Tom that I probably watched as a kid, but I don't remember a single minute of it. So here's the game. Starts off okay, and then we're just practicing laps to get the controls down. Okay, well this seems boring. Maybe when we race it'll be way more exciting. No, it's just going in a circle, same track, same boring background. Except now there are other cars, and I really stink at this game. My car looks pretty beat up, so let's try to pit stop and never mind. Alright, let's slow down this time. Here comes the pit stop, and bam! Got it. Wait, I don't know how to control these dudes. Seriously, every button moves a different person. And the clock's running out. Oh, I do not like this game. This is better than Cool World by a small margin. This is Bram Stoker's Dracula, and I'll tell you what, this movie is worth watching if not for Keanu Reeves' terrible accent alone. We still love you, Keanu. I think this game is mid to above average. It works well as a platformer, offers a variety of items and weapons, has boss battles that align with the film, and is a pretty chill playthrough. Though some areas were very frustrating, I can't call this game broken or totally phoned in. Dracula is decent, so I'm placing it here above Alien 3. Dick Tracy was also a game that a very famous video game nerd totally dunked on, but this game is kinda cool. I think it drips Dick Tracy atmosphere. I like this open world detective premise, where you have notes and leads and you have to drive around old school GTA style, go out of the car into these scrolling areas and punch, shoot, and interrogate your way through the game. The driving controls aren't the best, but then again, this is the NES. However, these sections are fluid, and not once did I feel like I died because of jank. I like this password system that has a bomb in the safe, and if you put the wrong code in, it totally explodes. I think I want to play this game more, and I think I like it. But where does it fall on my list? Right here, under Batman Returns. Die Hard is a really fun movie, and I was surprised how well it translates to this 8-bit system. I found the overhead view to work really well within this movie setting, with blind corners, enemies just spraying bullets, and windows shattering everywhere. I love how when you blast a foe, all of their items fly off of them in crazy directions. This movie works well as a game. You even get to crawl around in the air vents. I think I'll play this game again in the future. So let's put it right above Killer Tomatoes, right below Dick Tracy. I don't know about you, but when I think Dirty Harry, I don't imagine this. Right out the gate, I'm being jumped by every stereotypical punk rocker in New York City. Good thing I have a gun, but ammo is limited and aiming it is a pain. Seems like I can just only jump when I'm near ledges, and the entire city is a labyrinth of alleys and apartments. I'm lost as frick, enemies respawn almost instantly, and this music is super bad. I'm sure if you give this game enough time, you might understand it and maybe like it. But also, if I force myself to eat anchovies every day, I might start appreciating them as well. For now, Dirty Harry is blah, and it sits right here above Beetlejuice. Here we have The Empire Strikes Back by JVC and Lucasfilm Games. I remember playing this as a kid and honestly, disliking it. Now that I have a better grasp of the controls and direction, I can say it's better than I thought. The production value is obvious, from the still frames to the music, but wow, these controls take a little bit to get used to. This game is not easy, and it definitely requires a ton of trial and error to understand where to go and how to traverse the level. But when you get a lightsaber, much like most other Star Wars games, things get way more fun. I appreciate this pause menu screen playing the Mos Eisley Cantina theme. This is great. And sure, the first level throws you right into the fray, but this game is faithful to its material. I don't know where this lands, but I say it goes right here above Killer Tomatoes. I'm going to be completely honest here. I don't remember this movie at all. I was at first confusing the title with an older film called The Last Starfighter, but it would appear that we have another fighter jet simulation game here on the NES, and this one is solid. It took me about 30 seconds to get comfortable with the first-person controls, and the other stages are a breeze as well. Of course, that was until I had to land the plane, which a future game we will discuss is infamous for. In regards to these type of games, I think Flight of the Intruder isn't bad. You should check it out. This intro would freak me out as a kid, and it still does to this day. There is just something about Friday the 13th's 8-bit vibe that strikes me as unsettling. The gameplay is odd, the music and sound effects give me anxiety, and the entire time I spent with the game, I just felt uncomfortable. I don't think it's that bad, and actually I got further this time than I did as a kid, but just know Jason will knock you out faster than Prime Mike Tyson on a Saturday. This game still weirds me out, but I appreciate it more now. It's better than Dracula. This game is terrible. Graphics are some of the worst on the system. Music is okay, but it's repetitive. Gameplay is confusing and boring. I mean, how do I even make enough money to buy these required items to even get to the real first level? Driving is impossible at full speed, and this map screen is a joke. If you want to give the crown to the most phoned in, lazily constructed movie-based game thus far, it goes easily to Ghostbusters. This is a crying shame, and I can't believe they were able to get past Nintendo's very shaky quality control in the 80s. Bottom of the list, easy. Ghostbusters 2 makes the first entry look like it's on a Tiger electronic device. This actually captures the spirit of the film. You got all the main characters, you got the monsters and the ghost, the storyline of the film is there, and there's a lot of variety between the levels. This isn't the best game in the world, and the driving section is Nintendo hard for sure, but Ghostbusters 2 finally put effort into this beloved franchise. The game is alright. I'm gonna put it right here under Star Wars. Godzilla is a prime example of too much ambition. This presentation is amazing. Even if the story is told through extremely slow, scrolling text. But I cannot deny the visual department of this dev team wasn't talented. This looks great. But then you play the game, and what is even this? Are we playing a Godzilla board game right now? Oh, okay, here we go, actual gameplay, and oh no. Look how janky these controls are. Everything is just blasting full bore, and you have the weakest attacks I've ever seen. The slowdown is real in this one, folks. I can't help but wonder how a game this graphically appealing dropped the ball so hard in all the other departments. Also, once you get to fight another monster, it's just this broken mess. Ugh. Godzilla commits the biggest crime in the court of the NES. It's too whack to be fun. Better than Cool World, worse than Back to the Future 2 and 3. The Goonies 2 is a sequel to a movie that didn't have a sequel, so I will consider this North American release to be based on the first film. The Konami DNA is there for sure. Solid mechanics, okay visuals, an impressive map screen, and a lot of items and exploration. I do see a little Friday the 13th in these pseudo first-person areas, which I find to be kind of a lull in the action, but this game does a decent job of appearing to be a Goonies game. I do, however, get the gist that this game was made first and then the license was added later. Also, I'm not a fan of randomly using my items to aimlessly hit walls and find hidden areas with no clue. Not really my type of game at the end of the day, but I respect it. This falls right below Die Hard. Barely. What is with the release of sequel games that don't have a part 1? I assume they wanted to line this game up with the box office release of the latest film, and I gotta tell you, Sunsoft has done it again. This game is near perfect on its execution. It has amazing style, amazing graphics, amazing gameplay, it's approachable from any age, I enjoy the music and diversity, It's really, really, really fun. Gremlins 2, in my opinion, is a must-play for the NES. Just look at these cutscenes, good lord! So far, I must say that this game has perfectly encapsulated the movie to game transition, and it takes the top spot of my list. Bravo. Home Alone might be the most literal adaptation thus far, but not in a good way. Let me break down the entire gameplay here. You have one screen. You walk around like a wounded cat, collecting traps that are represented in these square items. You lay the traps as two goofballs chase you. Your mission is to survive 20 minutes and then you beat the game. This is so weird. I don't think this is the most boring thing in the world, but I also felt the same way about fidget spinners in 2015. Also, once you have traversed the entire house, you have seen the entire game. Just walk around, lay traps, and hope to survive. Is it cheap? Yeah. Is it super awful? Kind of. Home Alone could be considered one of the laziest attempts at cashing in on a movie franchise, but I gotta give it credit where credit is due. It's really like the movie. Still sucks though, and it goes right here below the Blues Brothers. Home Alone 2 took a different direction than the first, but I honestly think it was the wrong idea. This is ugly and weird and just a huge mess. I mean, look at these enemies. A skipping grandma? Suitcases? Bellhops who throw keys at you that look like you should collect them, but instead they hurt you? Also some creep that just grabs you the second you enter a room and you restart the level? This is bad, and if you are even able to screw up a simple concept as make a platformer based on Home Alone, then I have no respect for your development team. I will say they were in love with the sliding on your knees part of the movie, but other than that, Home Alone 2 is worse than part 1, and I will die on that hill. A hill that I don't think anybody really cares about. What is this garbage? Hook is a beloved film based on the lore of Peter Pan, but this is some crazy Amiga-looking shovelware that has no business attaching itself to that awesome movie. First off, I can't see the text here. This giant, ugly Tinkerbell sprite is just thrashing around the screen as if they were so proud of it. Then we get a confusing world map, which you navigate with a compass instead of moving your character. Now, let me introduce you to a game with weapons that don't do anything, terrible hitboxes, laughable damage sprites, items that confuse you and wonder if they are food or keys, hilariously oversized enemies, and no sense of direction. I wish Sunsoft made this game instead of whoever the heck made it, because this is a straight up dog turd sandwich. Hook is worse than Bill and Ted, but it's better than Cliffhanger. Blah. Hudson Hawk is another movie I know nothing about, other than Bruce Willis was the star. But based off my short time with this game, I assume it's a story about a tiny man who is constantly getting harassed by dogs. These controls are whack, and this is completely unforgivable when your character sprite is this big. I spent far too much time just trying to get past the first 10 seconds of the game, but old throw you off the building Rottweiler here made sure I took my sweet, sweet time. Now I cross this rope, Cliffhanger style, and then I'm quickly greeted with one of the worst puzzles in a movie-based game. Okay, so I need to move these boxes. Over here, I assume, and then I raise them up via this lift, but this wiener dog lives to just make my life hell. So let's try and, oh God, please stop. Okay, I got this here and dig, damn it! Please stop attacking me and accept my gift of a baseball to the face. Okay, I finally got this lined up and I cannot jump across for the life of me. This is all I needed to play to know that this game is terrible. Hudson Hawk, please enjoy your place right under Cool World. This is the hunt for Red October, and look how intense this intro screen is. On November 12th, 1984, approximately 4 months before Mikhail Gorbachev took power in the Soviet Union, a Russian Typhoon-class submarine surfaced briefly on the Atlantic north of Bermuda. It subsequently sank in deep, deep water, suffering massive radiation leakage. Unconfirmed reports indicated some of the crew were rescued. According to repeated statements by both Soviet and American governments, nothing of what you are about to see ever happened. This was an Academy Award-winning movie that I most remember for having Sean Connery play a Russian. Mother Russia. So I assume this would be a submarine simulator. Nope. It's more in the vein of a shmup, and I am totally here for it. This feels like what Echo the Dolphin would play like on the NES. I mean, the submarine kind of looks like a dolphin. And this game is intense, constant barrages from all angles, giant underwater walls appearing out of nowhere, and the enemies spared no cost to keep you away. And you know what? Even though this game's ridiculous, I don't mind it. I actually like it. The hunt for Mother Russia falls right here above Dick Tracy. Wow, we just sailed through 31 games based on movies, but we are only halfway there. There are some real bangers up ahead, and I appreciate that you got this far. If you have any memories of these games, please leave a comment below. I will respond to all of them. And listen, if you dig this content, I implore you to check out our retro game podcast, Super Garbage Day. We review games 20 years or older that the community picks, and it's a huge inspiration for me to make this video. Join us next episode as we complete the list and find out what are the best and worst movie-based games released on the NES. Until then, have a super garbage day, never judge a book by its grammar, and cut to B.
Thank you for watching with my dad. I just want to say everybody, guys, bye!